Welcome everybody, shalom, shalom. Thank you very much for joining us for the special edition of Kabbalah Café before Parshat Naso, which is the first Shabbat now after the giving of the Torah, which means that 3,333 years ago, this was the first Shabbat that was kept according to the laws of the Torah and as a mitzvah. I want to thank, first of all, Gershom and Rachel Dandy for sponsoring this special edition of the Kabbalah Café in honor of the Refuah Shalema of Michal Ze'ev Ben Genendel. Should have a complete Refuah Shalema and a complete recovery. Also, thank you to Raya and Mordechai for hosting and broadcasting this shiur, as you do so many other shiurim, and I really appreciate it. We all appreciate it. This parasha of Parshat Naso is unique. Maybe it's connected to the fact that it's the first parasha which is read after the giving of the Torah, pretty much, I believe, every single year. This is the longest parasha in the Torah, in the sense of the quantity of pesukim, of verses. It has 176 verses, which this is also, not by chance, the same amount of verses in the longest chapter of Tehillim, Kuf Yutet 119. By the way, that's the chapter which we started learning about a half a year ago in the Tehillim according to Chassidut, and you can see it on our YouTube channel. You can see the first, perhaps, several dozen psukim which we learned in the chapter Kuf Yutet. And also, it's also the same amount of pages that the longest tractate, the longest Masechet in the Talmud, Baba Batra, has 176 pages. So there's definitely something unique in the number 176, besides for the fact that it's almost 180. I'm not sure what the exact meaning of that number is, but there's no question that there's something very special about the longest parsha in the Torah. Unfortunately, several hours ago, the state of Israel declared a ceasefire with our enemies. I'm not going to get into it because I don't understand the political decisions and the professional army decisions, and the spiritual decisions. That's quite clear that we're not allowed to leave a war in the middle. But let's leave that point aside for now. Somehow, some people are surprised at the outbreak of terror from the local Arabs. Those from countries that surround us, sort of, we understand, and we hope that it stops soon. But all of a sudden we see that there are people who worked for Jews for decades. There are Arabs that, and sort of in other and cities around Israel. What happened all of a sudden? For decades, we got along, as for centuries, we've gotten along in different countries, different Arab countries, for many years. But all of a sudden, they're lifting up their evil heads and revealing that which was there all along. So it's important to understand what's happening here, and there's a very interesting connection to the Parsha. We'll expand on this in just a moment, Bezrat Hashem. But the point that we're going to explain is, who was Yishmael? Yishmael is the father of all Arabs, Muslims from today. So if we can understand them a little better, then we'll understand who we're dealing with. Because I believe that knowledge is power, and when we understand the facts on the ground, then we're able to deal with them better. We're not naive anymore. In today's Chumash, in today's Chitat from Friday, which by the way is also very similar to yesterday's Chitat and to tomorrow's Chumash, we talk about the offerings that were brought from the princes, the Nasiim, the princes of the tribes, to inaugurate the Mizbeach, the new altar, and the Mishkan, which was later also brought in the Beit HaMikdash. And so that played a major role in the existence of the Shekhinah, the divine presence in the Mishkan, in this world. And the Medrash says a very interesting comment regarding the Hashra'at HaShekhinah, the revelation of the divine presence in the Mishkan. The Medrash says as follows: Ilulei shehayu mehulim, if Am Yisrael were not circumcised, lo hayu yicholim lahabit b'shechina, they would not be able to glare, to gaze, to look at the Shekhinah, because the shine of Hashem's great presence is so intense that a regular human being cannot understand, cannot relate to it. It's because we had the Brit Milah. And the Brit Milah, as we said earlier this week, that the Brit Milah, the concept is to get rid of the foreskin, and it's not just the literal foreskin, but it's also the foreskin of the heart. That makes us more pure. That makes us more holy. That makes us more prepared to be able to come face to face with Hashem, so to speak. And actually it says that until Avraham Avinu and Yitzchak and Yishmael until they were circumcised, they were not able to have Avraham mainly, it was not able to be a unification with the name of Hashem. And according to Kabbalah, when a person has a Brit Milah, that's when their Nefesh Elokit, their godly soul, begins to enter into their body. And obviously, when it comes to a woman, the Talmud says, Isha Kamanda Mehila Damya, that a woman is, regarding all these spiritual effects of circumcision, the woman is considered circumcised. And so therefore the completion of when the neshama comes into the body is by the bar or bat mitzvah. From here we see that the mitzvah of Brit Milah is, in a sense, more unique than all of the mitzvot, because circumcision is the foundation of the connection between every Jew and Hashem. And we can actually see this, that 98% of Am Yisrael in Israel do a Brit Milah, even those that are unfortunately very distant from Yiddishkeit. It's absolutely amazing. If we were before Matan Torah, before the giving of the Torah, and we would think which mitzvah could connect us to Hashem, it's that mitzvah. Unfortunately, throughout the generations, when our enemies, the Romans, the Nazis, Yimach Shemam v'Zichram, wanted to come against us, they forbade Brit Milah. It's up there, like Shabbos, right? One of these great mitzvahs. One of those mitzvahs is Brit Milah, the circumcision, because that is the foundation of the connection between Am Yisrael and Hashem. Now there's another thing that Brit Milah gives us, and that is the connection between Am Yisrael and Eretz Yisrael, the Holy Land of Israel. As it says in the Torah, V'natati lecha u'lezarecha acharecha. Hashem says, I will give you and your children, Hashem says to Abraham, your inheritance in Eretz Yisrael. And that is the Brit, the covenant. So the Brit, the covenant between Hashem and Avraham Avinu of Eretz Yisrael is similar and is connected to the covenant between Hashem that he gives a gift to Am Yisrael, which is Eretz Yisrael, the Holy Land of Israel. Therefore, when Yoshua brought Am Yisrael into Israel for the first time, and the conquering of Israel did not exactly go according to plan, Hashem says, go make sure that everybody is circumcised. Because it's a spiritual bracha. It's a spiritual blessing that in the merit of Brit Milah, that will strengthen our connection to Israel. And here's where we can connect it to the subject of the security of Eretz Yisrael. We are taught in the Zohar that for 400 years, the angel who was appointed for the Muslims came and requested in front of Hashem, whoever got a circumcision should also have a part in your name. Therefore, Yishmael, that also had a circumcision, why doesn't he have a portion in spirituality, just like the children of Yitzchak? So in other words, the response from Hashem was that you cannot compare the circumcision of a baby when he's 8 days old to a young boy that he's 13 years old. Because the Brit Milah, the essential bond that a baby has when you don't ask him is super rational. In other words, that's the basis of the relationship, is a super rational relationship. Nothing in the world can shake it. Yishmael, true that he agreed to have a Brit Milah. But tomorrow, if someone else will come and give him a rational reason why not to do it, or why to, God forbid, or why to break the bond and the covenant, he'll do it. Because the whole basis is a rational basis. So, according to the Zohar, we see clearly the foundation. It's a shocking subject, but it's, in a sense, I think it's very interesting. It's also hurtful, but it's interesting that the basis for the fact that the children of Yishmael, the Muslims of today, have had some kind of hand, some kind of grasp on the land of Israel, was because they had their great grandfather, their ancestor, Yishmael, had a Brit Milah, and in a sense, till today, many of them do it. So even though for centuries, when Am Yisrael was unable to come back here to Eretz Yisrael, unfortunately, and the Arabs were here, and the land was not really, it did not blossom. It was not fertile. But nevertheless, the fact itself that they were here is a zchut. We can't get away from it. Is a zchut. If not for the fact that he would not have had a Brit Milah, they would not have been able to have that zchut even to be here. That's not a legitimate excuse for them to be here. It's just a spiritual fact that, in retrospect, the fact that they were here was because of the fact that they had a Brit Milah. We say in the Tehillim, Lulei Hashem shehaya lanu, Yamarna Yisrael, Bekum aleinu Adam. If not for the name of Hashem that was with us, Am Yisrael says that the Adam, so to speak, would stand up against us. Baruch Hashem, we say in chapter, I believe it's 123. Baruch Hashem shalom netananu teref l'shineim. Thank Hashem that Hashem did not give us to be ripped apart by them. Who is this Adam? That refers to Parashat Lech Lecha, that it says about Yishmael, V'hu yiyeh pera Adam, he will be a wild man, or in English, freely translated, a wild animal. Yado bakol, v'yad kol bo. His hand is in everything, and everything is in him. The Arizal, the Holy Arizal, explains that Am Yisrael has gone through 4 galuyot, 4 exiles, which each one is represented, is explained in the book of Daniel through the different 4 animals. But now the Arizal says this is a 5th galut, which is the most difficult one. And it's not a galut in the image of a chaya, of an animal. It's in the image of a quote-unquote man. It looks like, externally, it looks like a human being. Why is he even called a human being? An Adam? Because he is the son of Avraham Avinu. Secondly, because he had a Brit Milah. Why is truly Yishmael called a Pera Adam, a wild man? The Chafetz Chaim explains a nice explanation that usually when you talk about someone that he's a smart man or a good person, and not the opposite. But over here we say, Pera Adam, the word Adam doesn't usually go with the opposite of good. A wild animal. It doesn't say a man which is wild. It says a wild person. Why is that? Because Yishmael, for him the Pere is the main part, wild. Adam is attached to it. But his main essence is not a human being. His main essence is the Pera, is wild and destructive. In other words, if you see a Muslim who is a judge or a philosopher or a business person or a lawyer or a teacher, first of all, he's Muslim. And then you see what kind of profession he has. Therefore, our approach to them needs to be that we have to always be concerned what kind of response they're going to give. Where can they, God forbid, turn around and exercise their wildness? The moment that the hate becomes revealed, then all of their quietness, that they've been quiet for, let's say, a number of years or even decades, all of that comes out. It's very, very sad. But David HaMelech says, Oyoli kigarti meshach shachanti imali kedar. Rabat shachan ala nafshi im soni shalom. This is the Rebbe's chapter for now, 120. Ani shalom v'chiyat daber heim ala malchama. Ani shalom, David HaMelech says, I am peaceful. Heim ala malchama. They are part of the malchama, part of the war. David says, I live with them with peace, with unity. But after all they want is to have war with me. And this is the explanation for what the Zohar says, that there's no greater galut for Am Yisrael than the galut of Yishmael, of the Muslims. Unfortunately, that's the fact of what we're living in. So when we know what we're talking about, then hopefully we'll be able to deal with it the way we're supposed to. There's a story which was told by Rabbi Yisroel Meir Lau, chief rabbi of Israel, chief rabbi of Tel Aviv, the father of Rabbi David Lau, who is currently the chief rabbi of Israel. He said that in 1997 he traveled to Cairo to meet the president of Egypt at the time, Mubarak. And they arranged for him a meeting with a mufti of Egypt. His name is Muhammad Tantawai. And when he met the mufti, he respected Rabbi Lau very much. He talked to him about the purpose of the need of having peace. And then Rabbi Lau said, I appreciate very much your generosity and your honor that you're giving me. I would like to invite you to come to Jerusalem, and I will give you respect in return. And in 1 second, the sheikh became all furied up. And he said, I will never have a stamp in my passport of the state of Israel. Only after the Palestinians will be freed and we'll take back Jerusalem and there will be a Palestinian state, then I will come to the land. So Rabbi Lau said to him, I don't understand. We're talking about good relationships between the nations. Here, I came with my passport and it has a stamp from Egypt. And I'm very proud that I was by the President Mubarak and that I met you. Why do you have a problem to do the same thing that I did for you? Rabbi Lau continued. And he said, before I came to meet you, I did a little research. And I saw that you did your doctorate in the subject of Jews and Islam, Judaism and Islam in the Quran. So you're an expert in both religions. I only know the Jewish religion. I've never opened up the Quran and I've never read it. I have one simple question for you. How many times does it say Jerusalem, the name Yerushalayim, in the Quran? In our Torah, it says, our Tanakh, it says 821 times the word Yerushalayim. So what's this argument about? So the answer is clear. It's an inexplicable, deeply enrooted hate that they have for us. In principle, we have no problem to live side by side, as Jews have lived side by side with the Muslims for centuries. But unfortunately, there's a very, very deep hate, which we have to realize is a reality. And when we realize the reality, then we're able to deal with it properly and to make sure that they have no hand in any Jewish ordeals, in any shuls, in any restaurants, in any businesses, because there is a very, very deep hate, and we have to be very, very careful how we act and pray to Hashem, that Hashem protects us, Hashem protects all of Am Yisrael, that Hashem protects Eretz Yisrael and the holy city of Yerushalayim, and that the enemies of Eretz Yisrael just leave us alone and leave Eretz Yisrael, where Eretz Yisrael can flourish. All of our friends and Am Yisrael from around the world will come to Eretz Yisrael with the coming of Mashiach, and we should only have a revealed good, revealed bracha, revealed blessing. Bezrat Hashem, we should have a great Shabbat, and thank you so much for joining us. Bezrat Hashem, you're welcome to join us for Mincha tonight over here at 7:15 at the Beit Chabad. Tomorrow morning for a Shir 9 o'clock Midrash learning, special learning. We're starting in a week from Sunday. 2 days a week in English, 2 days a week in Hebrew, a Beit Midrash right here at the Beit Chabad for our dear friends in the Golden Age. And on Mondays and Thursdays it will be in Hebrew, and on Wednesdays it will be for women, Bezrat Hashem, a special Midrashiyah. Details will be coming, Bezrat Hashem, very soon. And I'm very excited to start this new endeavor and initiative of opening up the Beit Midrash over here in Rechavia and Achlot. Have a Shabbat Shalom. Thank you so much for joining us. Be well.